Welcome everyone to another week of the Football Show at the Global Sports Channel. I'm your host David Barbash, along with my co-host, welcoming back once again Darren McCauley, striker with throughout his career. He was with Derry, Coleraine, Inverness and St Albans Dynamo. And we're always happy to have you, buddy. What's happening? How are you feeling this week? What's new?
Yeah, good. Just getting some visa things sorted between Australia and New Zealand. So it's been a busy week.
Well, hopefully that gets sorted, pal. And as always, man, I'm sure our global audience echoes the sentiments of wishing you the best always. But we've got a busy week of football, and it was week 37 now. We also had the cup final. We've got several close races. Now, the relegation battle's already been decided. We know from previous weeks, Sheffield United, West Albion and Fulham are going to be in the Championship next year. We're welcoming, of course, Norwich up from the Championships. And it's going to be interesting to see the final race. I can't remember who got second in the Championship to join Norwich, but I know in the playoff final, I believe it was Brentford. The four trying to get through to the playoff final was Brentford, Bournemouth, and two other squads are escaping me right now. But let's focus on the Premier League because I think it's going to be good to welcome back Norwich. I think they'll have the firepower. Whether or not they have enough to stay up, like last time, I'm not so sure. However, this week, we want to keep an eye on the first game up was featuring one of those sides that are chasing that top four spot for the Champions League spots. Now, we know the champion has already been decided. It's Manchester City. Your side, Manchester United, Darren, they've already locked up Champions League place already. Currently, they're in second. Chelsea, on the other hand, currently before we started the week, we're sitting in fourth place, trying to leapfrog by the end of the week, Leicester. First game up, didn't start off well for Chelsea. They lost 1-0 at home to Arsenal. And our ex-co-host, Mike Sutton, his side wins out in this one, surprisingly, due to an Emile Smith-Rowe goal in the 16th minute. I don't know what happened to Chelsea in this game, Darren. I don't know if you saw this one, but 14 shots on goal for Chelsea, only 3 for Arsenal, 68% possession. And I just didn't get the setup. They had Billy Gilmore, Chelsea, starting. They switched him out. He didn't perform too well in the first half. They made the change to Hudson-Odoi at halftime. They started Mounts, Pulisic, and Kai Havertz up front. They made a change, put on Ziyech for Azpilicueta in the second half, but to no avail. I don't know. Chelsea recently, they had this amazing unbeaten stretch for their coach, Tuchel. We'll talk about the FA Cup final a little bit later on in the show. Coming up this week was played against Leicester. What's your take on the game? Chelsea a blip? Are they looking tired? What was, do you think, the key to this game and their loss?
Well, the honeymoon period with Tuchel is over now. So he's had that effect where he's came in as a manager and he's done very well. He's gave a club, he's gave the players a lift. But now I think that's ended and he looks a lot more settled. The players look familiar with his style and he enjoys his rotation. So a lot of players are coming in, coming out. They're not expecting to play consistently every week or at least start every week. So I don't think we should be surprised by his rotation at this stage. But nonetheless, the game against Arsenal, possession does not equal success on the pitch. You know, you need to put the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, and I've mentioned him throughout the course of the show this season, and that's Emile Smith-Rowe. I like his industrious, the work rate. He's not the fastest around the box, but I like his link-up play. I like his passing. He makes great off-the-ball move. He has a great off-the-ball movement. Aubameyang, it's weird that they're not starting Aubameyang alongside Lacazette. They started Oba in the game, and then he came off in the 79th in exchange for Lacazette. But it did the job. Chelsea lose 3 valuable points. However, the week is not over, and we'll see. Later in the week is going to be a key game. Now, Thursday come around, it's Aston Villa, a bit of a ball draw against Everton, a 0-0 draw. The one good thing for Aston Villa, they welcomed back into the fold one of my favourite players. I know you like him as well, Jack Grealish. He came on in the 72nd minute. So I think despite losing from the previous game, Ollie Watkins was out. He was suspended because of the red card that happened last week. 14 shots on goal for Everton, 9 shots on goal for Aston Villa. But those two sides look like they're tiring out towards the end of the season. Now, a game you probably don't want to hear about was up next. Thursday's second game, and that was Manchester United, your side, Dazza, losers 4-2 at home against your arch rivals Liverpool. 53% possession to Man U. However, slight shot advantage, 13 versus 11 for Liverpool. What happened? You got off to a great start. Bruno Fernandes puts you up in the 10th minute, only for Diogo Jota, finally back in the side for Liverpool. A little bit inconsistent since he's back. He's not been the same. He gets back on the score sheet. It's still 1-1. Firmino then, right before the end of the first half, 3rd minute of added time, he makes it 2-1 at half-time. Doesn't start off good for you guys. 47th minute, Firmino gets the brace. You end up bringing it back to make it 3-2 with Rashford in the 68th minute, only for Mo Salah to wrap it up 4-2 in the 90th minute. Liverpool needed this probably as a club more than you needed it. If they'd lost it, pretty much you could have ruled them out for any hope of Champions League potential. What was your take on the game? Where were the strengths in this game for Man U? Any mistakes, in your opinion, due to selection of team, strategy, play in the game? Your take on the game?
No, I think Liverpool haven't been as consistent as they were last year, but nonetheless, when it comes to these games, they've got an attacking prowess that is hard to beat in the Premier League. So no matter what level they're at, they always have the ability to score 4, 5, 6 goals, and they got 4 against us, and I think they were the better side, as much as it pains to say it. Jota done well. A few other players took their goals well, took their chances at the right times. I know Mane was disappointed by not starting. I think he came off the bench. I think it's not a good result for us, but Liverpool have that capacity. They had 2 or 3 in a short space of time.
Yeah, and I think it's a game that they get up for. And listen, no matter how many injuries they've had this year, especially what they're on their 5th and 6th starters at the centre back, which is sort of quite amazing. It might be even more than that. But at the same time, they got up for the game. And Man U still sit in 2nd place. Disappointing loss for them. Not sure I would have not started Greenwood, in my opinion. He was on the bench. I would have started Greenwood against Liverpool. I think you need that pace, that maybe he's not steely enough as maybe Fred, but at the same time, I would have probably started Greenwood up front, maybe pulled off Pogba, or maybe not started Fred. What's your take on that? Do you think if it was you as the manager, would you have gone with the starting 11 that they went with, or would you have put Greenwood on from the get-go?
Yeah, I would have Greenwood on from the start because of the form that he's been on this season. Whenever you play Liverpool, you play your best possible team and you play the players that are on form.
Dazza, we had some great games on Friday. One of the highlights was Man City come from behind win. Yes, come from behind win against Newcastle. At one point, Newcastle were up 3-2 after Joe Willock put them up, only for a hat-trick. The second and third goals by Ferran Torres makes it a 4-3 victory for Man City. Did you see the game? I love the game. Did you see any of the goals or the game itself?
Yeah, great advertisement for Premier League football. Fantastic game. Newcastle done really well. They've really picked up the last few weeks. But Manchester City, again, their strength and depth, the quality of Ferran Torres, who I think has been really underrated this season. You have seen that Aguero's came out of the picture and Torres has came in along with Jesus and Gundogan. They're kind of chipping goals on from everywhere. So look, fantastic game. Man City and Guardiola will not be happy with conceding 3 goals, but nonetheless, they have that firepower to come back and win any game.
Yeah, they do. And I was looking, there's some vulnerabilities of City where they've lost this season. They've lost to counter-attacking sides that are quick on the break, and they are susceptible on the break to balls over the top, especially down the right. And I think Newcastle exposed that. So I'm very interested to see what happens in the off-season. Again, you crown champions, you win easily, but maybe, as you said last week, maybe they look to shore up that back four, maybe with an addition or two. We will.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, also you've got Harry Kane coming out now saying that he might not be a Tottenham player next season. So if Manchester City get him, they could be unstoppable. I'm hoping he goes to Man United, but I'll not be surprised if City catch him.
I think his style, would suit Manchester United. I think I'd love to see him at Man United. Of course, I'd love to see him at Leeds, but I think the big sides with the big money, he's going to go to a top 4 side with big money. He wants to be in the Champions League next year. Great game. Next up, I have to say this, Saturday, my side, Leeds United, once again, 4-0 winners away from home against Burnley. To be honest with you, I've got to be fair to Burnley. In the first half, I was a bit concerned. Leeds weren't really doing it for me. And I thought, if we weren't careful, we could be behind. Burnley looked like a threat. However, Matthias Klitsch with a beautiful curled shot. I don't know if you saw the game, but what a strike from distance, curled into the inside of the right-hand post by Matthias Klitsch. It's still anybody's game to play. We come out. Bamford goes off in the 58th minute. He didn't look great. Rodrigo comes on. Harrison in the 59th minute, 1 minute after Bamford goes off, Harrison scores with a fluke goal because Alioski probably had the worst miss of the season earlier in the game. He missed by a country mile. He was missing again, and as it was going wide of the goal, Harrison flicked it almost like, I don't know what you would call it, almost like a back heel, side heel kick, redirects it into the goal, leads a 2-0 up. Rodrigo comes on, the best sub of the season. Rodrigo looks good the last couple of games. He scores in the 77th minute and the 79th minute. Deserved victory for Leeds. What did you think of Leeds in this one? Rafinha back in the fold. Leeds looking good so far.
Yeah, well, Leeds are flying right now, and a couple of victories that they've had have really put them in a good position for next season. If they can carry on that momentum on the next season, they could be in with a chance of top 4. It's not beyond the realms of possibility. Burnley also going well. Vokes, Vidra, Chris Wood up top have been going well. So it's a good result for Leeds. I think Rafinha and Rodrigo, especially Rodrigo, I'm a huge fan of his. He just has that bit of magic in his boots.
What finishes this week?
Yeah, exactly. So they've got real quality players who I think Bielsa he's almost having a Guardiola effect from what I can see on the club, where he's making players who were average become they look like established Premier League players. They look as if they have a confidence and a swagger about them that he's given them. So it's exciting times for Leeds fans.
Yeah, it sure is. And I'm looking forward to the off-season, because if we can bring in maybe, I'd say add maybe at least another 5 players, 2 of them that would really need, and maybe 3 of them to really make a difference, then I think we've got a chance at top 6. At the end of the week, you'll see where we're sitting. We're not that far off top 6 right now. If we get some completely marquee players, which I don't think will spend the money, then maybe top 4, like you said, might be a possibility. But great first year back in the Premier League. Let's move on. Southampton were next up, 3-1 winners at Fulham. Fulham, listen, they started a couple of youngsters. They've already been relegated. It wasn't a big surprise. Shea Adams, Nathan Teller, Walcott for Southampton, Carvalho for Fulham. Brighton, look, they beat Leeds recently, and they made Leeds look really average on that day and below average. They took a point off West Ham. West Ham fighting for top 6, and yet that's not the result West Ham needed. They only get a point. We move on to the next game. I know you're a big fan of David Moyes' side. It's not what they really needed. Now, I want to get your take on the cup final. Chelsea, heartbreaking loss to Leicester City. They're fighting for the Champions League spots, the 2 of them in the league. Chelsea, on the other hand, I'm not sure I would have left Ben Chilwell on the bench. I did not like the choice of starting Marcos Alonso in this, even though I do like Marcos Alonso. I like Ben Chilwell. I think he's been playing okay lately. They made the questionable call. They started Werner instead of Pulisic. Pulisic came on, Giroud came on, Chilwell came on. But ultimately, Tielemans with a great goal. What's your take on the game? Do you also like this youngster, Luke Thomas, for Leicester City? I'm really impressed with this youngster, Luke Thomas.
Yeah, I've been impressed with him. He's done well for such a young player. And I think Leicester probably deserved to win the game. It was a tight affair, but that strike from Tielemans deserved to win any game. And I think he's really flourished within the last few months. You know, I was a big fan of Maddison at the start of the season, but I think Tielemans has been the star performer for me from midfield anyway. And a fantastic one for Leicester. Brilliant for Rodgers. He's done a great job there.
I love Brendan Rodgers.
He's changed the style of play, and it's his first trophy as Leicester boss. So a huge congratulations to him. And it was really nice to see the Leicester chairman kind of he came down, or they think he's the owner, either owner or chairman. He came down and the players hugged him, and there looked like a real genuine camaraderie there between the players and the owner of the club, which is something that you don't really see. So Leicester are really in a good position to be a really successful club.
Yeah, I think you're right. And they look such a tight-knit club. Listen, even when they had that surprise victory a few years ago when they won the Premier League under Ranieri, they banded together, they gelled, and they got the city behind them. And they had such a great, I think Ranieri at that time, maybe not in the following year, but at that time just had a bond with the manager. And I love Brendan Rodgers, I loved him when he was at Liverpool, and I really like him now. And I think he genuinely cares for his players. And he doesn't look like he has a massive ego, as opposed to some of the Premier League managers of past that we know about and have spoken about. Let's move on to the games that were coming up. We actually talked about the games on Saturday already, and I said that the first up was the FA Cup final, but that was the last game we talked about. Sunday was up, and it was Crystal Palace 3-2 winners at home to Aston Villa. Aston Villa's disappointed me. Earlier in the year, when they beat Liverpool 7-2, I'm thinking, wow, they've got such a young, energetic squad. Jack Grealish, Ghazi, El Ghazi, Ollie Watkins, really full of running and youthful energy up front. Jack Grealish did come on in the 64th minute, but experience up front, I think Crystal Palace paid off. You got Christian Benteke scoring, Zaha, also Mitchell as well. They did get some consolations, obviously the McGinn goal and the El Ghazi goal, but I don't know. What's your take on Aston Villa? You think that they started off hot, Dean Smith's side earlier in the season, and just seemed to fade in the last portion of the season?
Oh, well, they've been a huge surprise package for me. I didn't expect Aston Villa to be in contention for a top six finish at all when the season started. So I think they've punched above their weight. They've got exciting players. That consistency to get a top six finish to creep into the top four is going to be really difficult to come by. But they've been a surprise for me. El Ghazi, Watkins, McGinn, Grealish. They've got some really talented players there who are. I don't think the Grealish is young anymore, or El Ghazi or McGinn. They're guys who are in their prime now, but the likes of Watkins and some other youngsters have a lot of future ahead of them. So it's an exciting time to be an Aston Villa fan as well.
And your take on Crystal Palace, they're an enigma to me because they can beat a Leeds like 4-1 and then get blown out to other sides, like 5-1 or 5-0. So it's what side is going to show up on that day?
Yeah.
I scratch my head, I really do, with a side like Crystal Palace, but they are 3-2 winners and they move on. I think at the end of the season, you'll probably see a manager change. I'm guessing at Crystal Palace. Do you think Roy Hodgson leaves at the end of the season?
It could do. It wouldn't be a huge surprise if he left, but ultimately he's kept them in the Premier League, isn't that right? So how ambitious do you want to be as a Palace fan? I think the heights that you'd want to reach realistically are a top 10 finish and survive relegation. That's where they're at, and that's where they'll continue to be at within the next few years, I would imagine. One of the huge positives for me with Crystal Palace is Eze,
I love him, yeah.
The winger. I think he's a fantastic talent. He's fast, he's strong, he's got a shot. He's similar to Zaha. So it'll be exciting to see how he progresses next season.
Yeah, he's looked good in the last few weeks, and he looked good against us when we've played him, and very, very dangerous. Spurs, another side that are chasing the top six to try and get into the Europa spot. Spurs are not completely out of it, but they were 2-0 winners. They needed this game. If they'd lost this game, this would have been disastrous for them. They beat Wolves 2-0. Harry Kane once again and Pierre-Emile Hedberg. They had 22 shots on goal versus 10 for Wolves. West Bromwich Albion. Now, we've got to talk about this game. West Bromwich Albion, already relegated. Heartbreaking loss in the last minute of the game. We'll set this one up for you guys. West Bromwich Albion, 15 minutes in, Robertson Kanu is put through. He beats the offside trap. He goes through. He absolutely pulls the trigger, slots it past Alisson, beautifully taken goal. Mo Salah ties it up in the 33rd minute, but we realise now, going into this game, Liverpool to have any hope of getting in to that final top four spot for Champions League had to get 3 points. We're into injury time. Injury time. You tell them what happens. Tell our viewers what happened literally in the 5th minute of added time. Unbelievable. Take it away. Absolutely amazing.
Well, Alisson comes up, doesn't he? And he scores that header from the corner. And it was by no means an easy header. It was a great header. So great scenes for Liverpool. Great scenes for Alisson. Robson Kanu, I think it was his first start in something like 3 years for West Brom. So it was good to see him back on the pitch because I'm a fan of his from the Euros back with Wales. He done quite well. So it was good to see him back on the pitch. And yeah, fantastic result for Liverpool. Alisson with the header, deserved it.
What a finish. Now, there's a further backdrop story to this. I watched the game like you did, and when I saw Alisson coming up, I said, okay, it would be nice if he could get his head on it. And as you said, he not only got his head on it, he actually did. It was a towering header, and he redirected it. He just didn't make contact. He literally directed it into the corner with a glancing header, full of intention, full of power, unstoppable, and immediately in the aftermath where the Liverpool players pile on top of him, and obviously on the sidelines, Jurgen Klopp is going mental. Alisson has tears in his eyes after the game. And then it comes out that 3 months earlier, his dad, back in Brazil, died unexpectedly due to a drowning accident. He accidentally drowned and he lost his life. And so after he scored, you saw him point his finger up to the heavens and said, this one's for you, Dad. And I think at the time when I realized what was happening, I was tearing up once I heard that. And what an amazing story. So Alisson, the hero. And we will see coming up a little bit later in the broadcast how impactful that result might be due to the pivotal game between Chelsea and Leicester City, the rematch, but in the league coming up. So thanks for the observation on that. I loved that game, and that was one of the hero moments of the season. Sheffield United, already relegated, next up, beat a Everton side that just doesn't surprise me anymore, because Everton, earlier in the year, the beginning of the season, were leading the league, and yet they were off to a tremendous start. They've looked really shaky as of late, and a 1-0 loss to Sheffield United, who started Daniel Eberson, Daniel Jebison is a youngster who I just read is courted by your side. Manchester United are after Daniel Jebison. He's a youngster, I believe. Is he like 18? I can't remember his age, but he's pretty young.
I haven't seen him, to be honest, but I'll look him up.
Look him up. He put him up in the 7th minute and it stuck, even though 62% possession for Everton and the relegated side, Sheffield United, do get some, at least, pride back by beating a top 10 side in Everton. Now, there were some games today. Before we went on the broadcast, we were looking at your side, Manchester United, at home to the relegated side of Fulham. And we were talking about, before the broadcast, about the first goal of the game was Edinson Cavani, who you rightfully so rave about, Dazza. The keeper's spotted off his line. He's maybe He's about 10 yards off his line, maybe a little bit less?
Yeah, he's just ahead of the penalty spot, isn't he? And
and so he's a little bit ahead of the penalty spot, off his line, and from 40 yards out, Cavani hits an absolute bullet that literally is a laser, like heat-seeking missile, right into the underside of the bar. What a cracker. What are the goals of the season for Cavani? I thought you had so much possession, 57% versus 43%. You had more shots on goal, and yet you give up a needless goal to Joe Bryan in the 76th minute. What was your take on the game, Dazza?
Well, first off, you have to start with Cavani's goal. It came out from the Man United goalkeeper, and Fernandes, with an absolute delicate touch with the outside of his right foot, he lets the ball play through and it rolls on to Cavani, and you have to give him a lot of credit. It's a fantastic finish. He hits it with just the right amount of weight. I would give Cavani more credit than criticise the goalkeeper. Yes, you don't want to be caught off your line as a goalkeeper, but it's just an unreal finish. And the goal that Brian scored against United was per marking from us, to be fair. But we dug out the result in the end. Yeah,
listen, unless you completely collapse I think if you look at the things, actually no. At the end of the week, you'll see that you've already secured second spot. Now, you hadn't secured second spot yet before the Chelsea-Leicester game, so we're sort of giving it away here, or I'm giving it away a bit, but a deserved 1 point, and that's what you really needed to clinch second spot in the league, which is a good season for you guys, and a returning to former glory. My side, Leeds United, today were second up, and 2-0 winners, continuing their winning streak away from home at Southampton. Southampton actually had more shots on goal than Leeds, slightly more percent possession. They looked more of a threat than Leeds in the first half, and yet Leeds probably had a talking to at half-time. I'm surprised Bielsa took off Diego Llorente, one of the star centre-backs the last 6 or 7 games since he came back from injury, and Calvin Phillips. He took them both off and put Struijk and Berardi back in. Now, Berardi's been out for, a year and a half or so, I think, close to 2 years. Bamford puts them up in the 73rd minute, does have a shout at a penalty, which should have been given, but he doesn't go down. He stays on his feet, as opposed to some of the cheaters nowadays just to take a dive. And Roberts wraps it up 2-0 in the 95th minute. Listen, we've already talked about Leeds. We both agree they've overachieved, I think, based on expectations going into the season. I'll take it. Any final words on the Southampton Leeds game before we move on?
No, I mean, all you can say is it's a clean sheet from Leeds, which is something we don't say too often. So if they can tighten up in defence next season, they'll be a force to be reckoned with, because they're always going to score goals with the attacking threat that they have.
Yeah, and I think what cost them earlier in the season when we were leaking tons of goals is we lost Llorente fairly early on. We lost Coke early on. We were out of the 2 marquee signees at centre-back. And we were really doing a makeshift centre-back for the mid-stretch of the season. So at the end of the season, we're fitter than most other sides. I'd say we've got a fitter squad than any other squad in the Premier League. And Bielsa ball relies on fitness. So we'll see. If we have a good pre-season, high hopes for next year. Next game up, we were talking about this before the broadcast, Dazza. Brighton and Hove Albion, a surprise winner against the champions, Man City, 3-2. Man City were up 2-0, yet basically by the 48th minute after Foden scored and Gundogan had scored in the 2nd minute, Cancelo gets sent off in the 10th minute. It changes the game. Now, I don't know if you're a fan of Brighton, because Brighton's the inconsistent squad that's near the bottom of the table, but Brighton have beaten some great sides this year in the top 6. Another example here, Trossard, Webster and Byrne. I like the Argentine striker, Trossard. I like him. I think he's good. I think he's Argentinian. They win 3-2. Were you surprised?
Yeah, you have to be surprised when Brighton beat Man City. But look, it was a fantastic goal by Trossard. He's waltzed his way past 2 or 3 players and produced a finish. Welbeck does well to put the Man City defender under pressure, and he deservedly gets sent off. So if Brighton beat Man City, you probably expect that something has happened, like a sending off or a dodgy refereeing decision. And not a great finish as well by I think it was the big centre half came up to score the winner.
Yeah, Dan Burn. And I think Dan Burn was, when they beat us, when Brighton beat Leeds a few weeks ago, I thought Dan Burn was very steely. He's a no-nonsense, tough guy at the back. And I think Trossard was dangerous against us. So I keep forgetting when I think about Brighton, they still have, sometimes they don't start them, but they have Welbeck that comes off the bench a lot of the times. He doesn't always start. They have Adam Lallana. He's also a lot of the times on the bench. And these were good players in the past, in their prime, dangerous attacking players. Well done to Brighton, I would say. And we're going to move on to the last game of the week that was just finished up right before we came on the broadcast. And that was Chelsea in the pivotal game of the week, maybe the entire season for them. They needed to win to leapfrog Leicester City into third place, fighting for that Champions League spots. They win 2-1. Now, Rudiger, we were just because the game happened just before we got onto the broadcast, we didn't see it live. We had to see some of the highlights right before we started taping. Chelsea had a bunch of chances in that first half with all the possession that they had, and yet the first goal bounced off Rudiger's thigh into the goal. They'll take it. Jorginho, penalty in the 66th minute. I was questioning whether or not that foul was in the area on Werner. I guess the VAR decided that it was just inside the box. My favourite player for Leicester, Kelechi Iheanacho, pulls it back 2-1. They run out of time. They end up losing. Is the type of Chelsea performance that you saw today what is going to get them a chance in Europe next season, you think?
They're on the shot, aren't they? I mean, I think that there was actually two penalties for me. The one that was given and the one that Tielemans hit Werner inside the box. So, look, I think Chelsea deserved the one. And it really, that spot, that position for top four for Liverpool, it's all on it. It's the most exciting part. Manchester City have won the league. We know the teams who are relegated, so if Liverpool get that top four spot, which I hope they don't, it'll be a good achievement for them.
You know what? I think you're absolutely right. But if I'm Brendan Rodgers, I'm flying high a few days earlier. You win the FA Cup final over Chelsea. You're in the driver's seat. You win this game. You are in the driver's seat. This is one of those... Literally, isn't it? When you think about it, this is one of those 6-point swingers. Because if Chelsea had lost this game, they would be on 64, if I'm correct. And Leicester would be on 69 points. Instead, Chelsea moves up into third place in 67 points. Leicester stays on 66 points. So what a game changer this one is. And listen, we're going to count out guys that are watching around the globe. The tables, this tells the story, how close it is. Manchester City, the title winners, played 37, 83 points. Your side, Dazza, Man United, 71 points. Here's the crutch right here. Third place, Chelsea, played 37, 67 points. Fourth place, the final spot for Champions League. Leicester, played 37, 66 points. With one game to go, they're only 1 point behind Chelsea. Still in that fourth place spot for Champions League. But Alisson, thanks to Alisson's powering header, Liverpool only played 36 games, Daz. 63 points. Now, they've got two very winnable games coming up, Liverpool, against, I believe, non-top 6 sides. If they win their next game, they'll have played 37. They'll also be on 66 points as Leicester, but they will leapfrog Leicester into the 4th final spot for Champions League due to goal difference if they win the next game. And it all comes down to that last game. Anybody, if Liverpool wins that extra game, that last game of the season will decide who goes into that Champions League 3rd and 4th spots. Is it Chelsea? Is it Leicester? Is it Liverpool? Make your prediction. Who gets the 3rd and 4th spots? Make your prediction, does it?
I'll go Chelsea and Leicester.
I'm going to actually go Chelsea and Liverpool because I think the pressure is going to be more on Leicester and I don't think they can handle it. I think they're going to cave. We will see. Let's do a friendly sportsman's bet. And write in. You can write in. You can send me an email to david@globalsportschannel.com. And I'd love to hear from the fans around the world what your who are your picks for the 3rd and 4th spots, joining Daz's side, Manchester United, and the title winners, the Citizens from Manchester City. The other places up for grabs right now for the Europa spots, we did say that Liverpool, as of right now, are in 5th spot. 6th spot is really close for the Europa spots, Daz. Tottenham, in that final 6th spot for Europa, 36 played, 59 points, 22 goal difference. West Ham, 7th place, same 59 points from 36 played. So Tottenham could blow it in the last 2 games, or they could get that final spot for Europa. It's so tight. Leeds sitting in 8th position right now, played 37, 56, only 3 points behind West Ham. Everton played 36, extra game in hand, also 56, three goal difference. And Arsenal played 36, 55 points. So there's your top 10. We thank you for tuning in. Before we go, Daz, we've got about another minute or so here. What's your take on the season, and what do you think has been the maybe 1 or 2 highlights from the season that when you think about, as we're wrapping up the season, what's been some of your favorite things throughout the season that you remember?
Geez, for me, it seems as if the Premier League is just getting better and better every year. The excellence of Manchester City, the job that Guardiola's done there has to be up there with the great achievements of the season. Teams like Leeds, Aston Villa, who are surprising everyone. It feels as if those teams can beat anybody on their day. The teams that got relegated, I feel, isn't that much of a surprise. And the top 4 race has been thoroughly exciting. Just as you mentioned, it's going to go until the last day. Probably a downfall is that the Arsenals of this world, teams like that slipping away, kind of not the great teams that they used to be. But the top 4 race has been excellent for me personally. As a Man United fan, it's good to see us back in the top 4, back in trying to go for the title. 2nd position is as good as we've done over the last few years. So we look in a position where we're as strong as we are maybe 5 years ago. So it looks as if we're getting over the Van Gaal, the Mourinho, the Moyes era. And with Solskjaer now, maybe we can have some consistency and try and go for the title next year.
Yeah, I think you've got the right person in Solskjaer. I think if he's given some money, maybe you've got a shot at the title next year. I think still maybe 1 or 2 additions, because that City aren't going to rest and that maybe they'll still invest, especially if you're getting Aguero leaving and maybe some other players leaving. My take, I echo a lot of your sentiments. I think the top four race has been great this year. Obviously, being a Leeds fan, I've been super impressed in the second half of the season performance by Leeds once we got healthy bodies back. I've been disappointed with the Spurs and the Arsenals of the world that you mentioned about Arsenal. I've also been disappointed in Spurs. I thought they underperformed because even though they fade away traditionally, when the pressure comes, like you've mentioned, I think that Spurs disappointing, really. Patches of the season, very disappointing. Earlier in the season, it was great to see some of these sides like Everton earlier in the season, like an Aston Villa, be up in the mix in the top five, looking good. They don't have the depth because I don't think they splash maybe the cash. But obviously the biggest difference this year, I think, has been not having your crowds. Liverpool relies on the Kop. Manchester United relies on that home support. Leeds United relies on the home support. These are three sides that they really rely on the fervent home support. Hopefully as COVID restrictions open up, today, I think Southampton, when they lost to Leeds, they did have supporters in the stands. Leeds United will have supporters in the stands for the West Brom final game of the season. But let's band together as a society. Let's hopefully get people back in the stands. Let's get away from let's be responsible, of course. Let's think about public health policy. But at the end of the day, let's hopefully open it up to getting those fans back in the stands and supporting our sides. Stay safe out there. Dazza, I wish you luck over the next week with everything that's going on, my friend. And check us out, guys. You can check us out. The show is on iTunes. You could also check us out on the YouTube channel. You'll see the Global Sports Channel, the football show. You can check us out on globalsportschannel.com. You could also, Dazza, how did that, you had the Facebook Live. You had that already, I believe, this week.
Yeah, it went well. Got through a lot of topics in football, injury prevention, nutrition, player pathway, mindset, psychology. So there was a lot of topics I touched on. The video got over 500 views. So, hopefully it benefited some players, especially younger players.
Well, thanks for that. And you go to check out Darren McCauley, and it's under on your Facebook Live. Was that under when they were looking you up for future broadcast?
It's on my Facebook page. It's on the Facebook page, which is just called my name.
So go check out, guys, Darren McCauley. Go to the Facebook page and look for future Facebook Live events. And we appreciate you guys tuning in as always. And that's a wrap up of week 37 on the football show. I'm your host, David Barbash, with co-host Darren McCauley, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, thanks.